Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. Today, we're going to answer the question for you: should you open for it or spend your tokens on the new card Sasquatch? In addition, both Ravonna and Havok are coming out in Spotlight Caches this week. We've got over 10 decks for Sasquatch, over 10 for Ravonna, and I think like 3 or 4 more extra for Havok. So we've got you covered for all the things you need to make the best decision you can about whether you should open for this card. And if you'd like to see gameplay with these decks, you should check out the stream team today, Prashaun at noon Eastern, and then tomorrow morning there will be a YouTube video on Twitch. You can find Prashaun playing these decks today, and then a YouTube video first thing tomorrow for these decks. Gregor2424, the great Gregor, should have a video out with yesterday's decks, and make sure you check out GamingwithFlashX, who will be playing tomorrow's decks, because yes, we do a video every single weekday with at least 3 new decks. Our deck, before we get started, I always like to give you a deck that doesn't use the new cards for anyone who's not opening, so they're not wasting their time with the video. This is Spyro's Surf Going. Spyro came in second place in a tournament with this, cracked the top 60 with this, played really great, and I personally took this, played it for a while, and got up to around rank 400 in Marvel Snap with it. I think this deck is absolutely a blast to play and really strong. Alright, you can find Spyro playing decks like this on twitch.tv/Spyro_ZA. US Agent is really hard to replace in this deck. You'd need to try Shang or Shadow King. I personally suggest Shadow King, but those are the types of replacements you're looking for. US Agent is just better because you can and will fairly often just drop US Agent early. Red Guardian can, okay. The first thing I did with this deck after playing it a bunch is cut Rogue. Rogue has been like a nearly dead card for me for a while now. I'm just not seeing the ongoings that whoever is running into the Rogue is, whoever is running Rogue for currently is. So I cut Rogue. If you don't have Red Guardian, don't cut Rogue. You're going to need Rogue. Red Guardian answers a lot of the same questions, the issues I would have where I would need Rogue. Either Red Guardian or Cosmo solves those problems. You can run Polaris, Nocturne, or Gladiator if you don't have Red Guardian, though. Jean can be Luke Cage. That was in the original version. Jean is better because, I don't know if you've noticed this, but Hela Shore is back. That Husky Hela deck we featured barged into the top 5 in Husky's ends. And I, again, cut Rogue for Nocturne, but you can also try Juggernaut or Mobius M. Mobius. Okay, so turn 1 you pass. Turn 2, Goose is your priority. I like to Goose in a place where they don't have any cards. This way, if they had low-cost cards, they would have played them, right? So this way you're sort of saying, no thank you. You can also feel free to US Agent in an empty spot because, again, if they're only playing bigger things, then either they're avoiding it or you're giving them a really hard time in that location. Turn 3, I like Mr. Fantastic or Jean, or Red Guardian. Red Guardian if there's a really good target. Jean if I want to start getting my control going. Jean can be frustrating to play on 3, sometimes I prefer her on 4. And Mr. Fantastic is really good here. He helps you get priority, and priority is important because you have Cosmo. Turn 4 is any 3 that fits. Again, if you went Fantastic, this is a really great spot for Jean. And then turn 5, you would like Sarah. And Sarah has a really great little synergy here if you can get it in the same lane as Fantastic. Obviously not a Goose lane. In that you can make Sarah a 6-power card with Captain America. Captain America working with Goose, US Agent, Mr. Fantastic, Rogue, if Rogue hits something, Cosmo, Punisher, and Jean is just huge. It is often an extra Surfer for its lane, and anyone who's played Surfer with Absorbment knows how powerful that can be. Meanwhile, you can play Jean and Cosmo. Jean and Goose on that turn. If you do that, the opponent will have to be forced to play a low power card if they have it. A low cost card if they have it into that lane. So if you can get Jean in a Goose lane, you can sort of lock your opponent out of playing big things. You can also drop Jean later into a Cosmo lane, knowing your opponent would like to Hela at that point. Then you don't even need Prio. You can snap, drop Jean in that Cosmo lane, and win. And then turn 6, you sort of can play whatever. It says end with Cannonball. End with Surfer. I've been playing a lot of Cannonball lately. Sorry. You end with Surfer. You sort of just go wide with as much stuff as you can, put as much power on the board, and drop Surfer. It's really nice contesting a lane. If you brood Surfer, right? That is 12 power from the brood. And then if you have a Mr. Fantastic hitting that lane, that's 14 power. A shocking sudden 14 power is pretty damn nice as you're putting a ton of power all over the board with that Surfer. All right. that was that. We're on to our new card. Our new card is Sasquatch. Sasquatch is a 6/10, Series 5, as everything is now. Costs 1 less for each card you played last turn. And everyone's sort of going crazy about this. Everyone assumes, including me, that this is going to be the best card of the month. That's huge shoes. Nocturne is one of the best cards in the game. But this feels like the ultimate good stuff. As long as I want to play a couple of cards, this is incredibly, incredibly powerful. Some people choose what to buy based on the Spotlight caches. This is our Spotlight caches for the week. This Sasquatch is reasonably cool. We've got a cool Havok and a Rian Chibi Ravonna. I have the hip, but I kind of like this Ravonna. We'll see. I also have the Meltdown Havok, so I'm probably just going to use tokens. I'm still in the 60,000 range, so I'm probably going to get Sasquatch that way. That doesn't mean you should get Sasquatch. I say this every week, but I'm a content creator. I have to get the new cards in order to give advice about them. So please don't assume because I'm getting it, you should. All right, so the main synergy with this card is Mysterio. If you play Mysterio and then you can play this card next turn, you've got a 3/10. 3/10 is great. That's basically it. If you do Mysterio and Monkey on turn 5, you've got a 3 cost this for turn 6, and then you've got 3 extra energy at least, unless you have Hope or something else out, to do on turn 6, which is really nice if you're playing, for example, Sage. If you're playing, for example, Mockingbird. That's a really, really good combo. Any 2 cards can make this a 4/10, but we have 2 4/10s that are perfectly playable in Crossbones and Cull Obsidian, so it's worth knowing that most turns you play 2 cards, which is not really going to do enough to make him great. But hey, if you can make him a 4/10 on turn 3 or 4, and then on turn 4, I guess it's not really worthwhile on turn 3. If you can make a 4/10 on turn 4 or 5, you're not sad. He's probably got some synergies in Bounce and Zoo, because Bounce can pull a bunch of cards back to hand, then drop 4 or 5 cards, and still just drop him for relatively cheap right after. Zoo can do the same basic thing. Mockingbird loves him because Mockingbird goes with Mysterio really, really great too. Wasp and Yellow Jacket are free plays. There's a deck that was going to have Yellow Jacket with him, and I had to cut the card, and it made me very sad. Beast and Black Swan give you free cards or cheaper cards. Black Swan gives you free cards. Beast gives you cheaper cards, which means you can play more. He is hard stomped by Mobius. I fully expect Mobius to be all over the meta this week. He's also Shangable, so Armor and Cosmo will help. He also works with Kairi. He is 6 cost even when he's less. And Cannonball seems like it would be a problem because if you're playing a lot of cards, odds are you're filling up your board relatively early, which means Cannonball has a freaking field day. All right, let's look at way too many decks because I got really into making them. But first, before we do that, please hit that sub button. I'd greatly appreciate it. It really does help the channel grow. But if you sub, we are also starting our next month's giveaway tomorrow, and we're announcing our last giveaway winners tomorrow. So if you hit that sub button, ring that notification bell, you won't miss out on that giveaway. In addition, if you'd really like to help us, liking, commenting, watching for as long as you can really do help the channel. All right, our first deck, as always, is Docty. Since our friend, we miss you, Drewberry has moved on, Docty is the king of new Marvel Snap card content. Docty has a version of Safety's Slayer Blade. Just so you know, if you like Docty's new card content, I personally love Docty's new card content. He's the best at predicting new cards. Docty is going to come on the first week of next season, and I'm hoping seasons from now on the Snap Judgments podcast and talk to us and help us break down all of the new cards. So, all right. So this is Docty's Safety Slayer Blade. Safety has a version of this deck that obviously doesn't run Sasquatch. It's been around for quite a while. It runs either Havok or Wolfsbane in this spot. This is saying that if you get a Ravonna out early and you can then go like Kitty Angela, or you get Hope, you go Ravonna, Hope, Kitty, Angela, Sage, whatever, right? Then all of a sudden you've got like this 3-power Sasquatch. Even if you get it down to a 4, dropping a Professor X on it means you're probably going to win that Professor X lane, and that's a lot of power. That's what this Safety Slayer Blade is. It's really, really cool. It obviously fits this deck. Our second deck, as is our wont, is Ankh. Ankh is a creator that is newer to me. I still haven't actually met Ankh, but I feature him every week, so someone go tell Ankh that I feature him every week. Ankh has the coolest version. This is the most unique and distinct version I've seen because, hey, 0-cost swarms will do a great job at making Sasquatch cheaper. That's fundamentally what this deck does, right? It's a disruptive deck. It says, I'm going to get rid of a bunch of your stuff. And so if you drop a couple swarms and then like say a Spider-Man or a Martyr, right? Like on turn 4, right? Because you Colleened, then you've got a 2-cost Sasquatch. It seems pretty good. And then you should be able to win the game. This deck is all about making things cheaper. It probably wants a way to get rid of a Mobius, like say a Red Guardian. But outside of that, look, a 1'7" stature, a 1'5" miles, a whatever super cheap Sasquatch, and then you leader off whatever nonsense they want to do to stop you. Should be very strong. Next up, we've got Nerf Herder. Nerf Herder doesn't always make new card videos, but we love Nerf Herder. We always feature his decks when we have a chance. You can check out Nerf Herder on YouTube. You're going to have to type in Marvel Snap after Nerf Herder because Nerf Herder is a Star Wars reference to those who didn't know. This is a nice, simple Sasquatch bounce. I really like the Rocket. I've been throwing Rocket into more and more of my bounce lists. It's not the most consistent thing early, but if you're going to end up playing it like an extra card on turn 3 with Beast to bounce it, he works really well. Black Swan at the end of the game says I can play all my ones for free. If you can Black Swan on 4, right? Like if you can, if you don't end up bishoping on 3, right? Because this isn't running Elsa. So if you don't end up bishoping on 3, you can Black Swan. You can bounce on 3 and Black Swan on 4. Play a bunch of your ones on 5 with Hit Monkey. Right? And then you've got the super cheap Sasquatch on 6. I'm telling you, I want Sage in this type of deck, but that's the gist of this one. All right, this is ZalSnap's deck. I built this, I updated an old Zal deck as a Sasquatch home earlier. I feel like Moon Girl with Quinjet makes you have lots of really cheap plays, right? A 1-cost Mysterio with a 2-cost Mysterio is going to make that card free. And then you have a free Sasquatch and Mockingbird. That seems like it's probably pretty good. Free Sasquatch, free Mockingbird, Hit Monkey. Let's go. Right? So you Moon Girl on 4. You go get Quinjet out, you Moon Girl on 4. Then you can double Mysterio Hit Monkey on 5, right? Because that's your one off, unless you doubled the Hit Monkey also. And then you can do Mockingbird Sasquatch, and you just go to town with your giant free cards. This is a really cool list. I have no idea if this works, but it's too cool not to try. All right, Thanos Sasquatch. This is from our friend Marvel Snap's own writer, Canadian Alfredo. Canadian Alfredo has this really cool Thanos list. Basically, Thanos can often drop a bunch of stones. If you drop a bunch of stones, Sasquatch is really good. If Sasquatch even costs 5, along with Cull Obsidian, you've got a 2-cost Scar. If you can do more, right? Like if you can save, if you know you have Sasquatch and you have a couple stones early, you can save some stones, drop stones on, drop 3 stones on 3, and then you're good to go, right? Like you've then got a 3/10 Sasquatch, which means you can still play another stone. You can Psylocke to help out, so on and so forth. All right, next up we have Sasquatch Hit Monkey. This is another Canadian Alfredo deck. I chose this one literally. I was like, I almost never feature 2 of the same person, but this one tries War Machine because Professor X is everywhere and driving me freaking crazy. But Professor X is everywhere, so if you can go, if you can drop that War Machine on turn 5, you should be in really great shape because you can Mysterio with this deck relatively early. If you do Mysterio with this deck early and get out Mockingbird / Sasquatch, you're making sure to the best of your ability to try and bounce your cheaper stuff so you can play late with Hitmonkey, but that should work totally fine. This deck, so like again, I don't think these want Hitmonkey. I think they want Sage instead. I think Sage does a lot of the same job here. All right, Den, our friend Den, the head writer at Marvel Snap Zone, our friend who does the podcast all the time, my favorite French person in the world, has a small mill. This is basically saying I've got all the little mill cards, and I've got Sasquatch. I can just drop cards and then drop this giant freaking thing. Should work just fine. A deck's fairly similar to this made the top 8 of the Lambi Open this weekend. You can check yesterday's video for more on that. So this seems really good as well. Next up, we have Sassy Monkey. This is Obelisk. Obelisk is our friend who is a growing YouTube creator, and Obelisk is trying to basically combine a lot of different things and say, if I can go, I can always do Sarah Monkey, right, and like win that way. But I've also got Beast as like a pseudo Sarah for turn 5. I can forge some nice good stuff, right? You can't run Bast, but you'd want to run Mysterio, so Forge is a reasonable proxy. It only hits the real Mysterio, but still. Oh no, it always hits the left Mysterio, right? Either way, should work fine. It works fine for Ham, works fine for Iceman. But at the end of the day, what you're basically doing is you're going to get a bunch of stuff out. You're going to get a giant Sasquatch, a giant Mockingbird, and then be able to steal Mysterio Monkey when you want to. That seems like it's probably going to win some games. If you go Mysterio, right, on 2, and then Sasquatch on 3, and then Mockingbird plus on 4, then Sarah on 5, you should be able to play a bunch of stuff with Sarah and win. All right. Dickens Butt. This is Jimmy Dickens and Butt. They combined to make this list. This is about where I looked. Oh, I did keep Yellow Jacket in it. Who knows what I cut? Whatever. Sasquatch should fit here because this is like a Super Mysterio. Oh, Pixie. I cut Pixie. This is a Super Mysterio on 2 deck. I think Pixie would be good here. Pixie is really good with Sasquatch and Mockingbird. Whatever. Neither here nor there. This one has the Yellow Jacket, which can not only make the rocks or the rocks cheaper, but can pull Sasquatch under Shang range. It used to pull Sentry under Shang range, but he doesn't need that help anymore. This is one of the best decks in Marvel Snap and has been for quite a while, and very few people play or talk about it. If you have access to these cards, this one is worth your time. Bounce. Yeah, this is just another bounce list. I had this list floating around, and I thought this might be a good home for it. It's doing Werewolf and Hitmonkey, which you don't always want to do. But, like, if you go a few 1s and then just turn 3 Beast, right, because you haven't gotten a Werewolf, you can then replay your stuff with Werewolf, get that big, then you can turn 5 Sasquatch. That seems like it's probably good. All right, King Venom has a Kulzu. This is a nice, simple list. I threw Sasquatch into because fairly often you'll just be dropping 2 or 3 1s in the middle of the game. Cosmo's probably not needed here, just add an extra 1. There's nothing really wrecking any of this stuff. Maybe Red Guardian or Rogue instead if you feel like you must. But in the middle of the game, maybe just Falcon. You can Falcon Black Swan, Falcon on 3, Black Swan on 4, and then get a few 1s back to play with your Cull, and then you've got a cheap Sasquatch, and if you can get Dracula out to end the game, congrats, you just dropped a 20 power Infinite 2. This is probably pretty good. All right, Johnson has a junk deck. This deck is the forebear, the descendant, that's the word I'm looking for, of the Dickens Butt list. It is relatively similar. It runs a lot of ways to get rid of opposing junk, and I assume that opposing junk will start to come up when Sasquatch starts to come up. So this is Beast and Carnage for that, and Lady Deathstrike for that, while also saying, I will Mobius your opponent's stuff. This is a really great place to start if you want to get Sasquatch, try Sasquatch, but not get your face wrecked off by Sasquatch. Lastly, I've been, still dominating with various Big Dumb Idiot decks, so I built a Sasquatch Idiots deck. This one is we're going to run Mockingbird. Mockingbird doesn't make Scar cheaper, right? But she's really good. If I go Mysterio on 2, I can go Mockingbird or Sasquatch on 3. And if I can go Mockingbird or Sasquatch on 3, I can now go Crossbones on 4, right? Pretty damn guaranteed. Squirrel Girl, I wish Squirrel Girl made one more squirrel, I guess, because that would give me the extra Mockingbird, but oh well. Yeah, everything else here is fairly self-explanatory, right? I think this is going to be really good. This type of deck just works. No one talks about it. No one's, sitting there going, these idiot decks, but they win. They compete with everything. They're really, really great in the meta right now. All right. So does Sasquatch look good? First, yeah, he looks great, but I think he's going to be a little worse than expected. His main synergy is Mysterio, and I'm not sure how great he is outside of Mysterio. Without Mysterio, he feels like Cull Obsidian, and we're not playing a ton of Cull Obsidian, right? Mobius is going to be everywhere for a week. You're going to play so much Mobius, so it's going to be hard to evaluate this card. The first week a card releases, because we do 1 release a week, is almost always the worst that card is, unless they do a hot location like they did for Loki. Still, it's going to have a lot of power, and I had 11 decks, and I had 5 or 6 more I could have featured. There's going to be a ton. All right, so I'm not going to give you my advice yet. I'm going to give you my initial advice at the end, but I'm going to tell you this. My initial advice is always basically to wait until weekend missions before you decide, because that's when there's a benefit to getting it. Getting the card early in the week doesn't actually accomplish anything for you. On Thursday, every Thursday, I ask a bunch of top players, people like Lambie, people like Sizer, top players, I say, did you get this card? What do you think of it so far? And then we get a bunch of feedback from top players this Thursday about Sasquatch. Friday, I will synthesize that information and make a recommendation for those of you who would like to get it for weekend missions. And then Monday, both in Monday's video and in and on a short / TikTok video. I guess I'm making TikTok videos because it's the same thing. So Monday, I will give you my final last chance review before it leaves, which means if you're watching this early and Namora is still in your shop, there should be both a short for Namora and in yesterday's video a review of Namora. All right, questions of the day before we get to the last cards. I figure a lot of you already have Ravonna, and a lot of you don't really want Havok. So those of you who look forward to questions of the day, here we are. Good Dog Gamer asks what my channel will look like when it shapes the meta instead of being ahead of it. I don't know. Hopefully relatively similar. I mean, hopefully I get that big. I never can tell how big I'm going to get. I don't think I'm going to change what I do if that's the case, right? I think we do a good job of being ahead of the meta, but I'm not sure. I knew that I wrote this question, right? So I knew it was coming, but it still kind of surprised me. I don't know. A bridge to cross when we get there. Seamus asks for a good deck for mobile players. The Idiots decks, and that Surfer deck at the beginning are what I've been basically playing on mobile. Last week in this video, I featured Baron Zemo Idiots, and I've had a ton of success with Baron Zemo Idiots, to the point where I'm making other versions of Idiots decks, and they all just work. Idiots good. Models asked what I think about Moon Knight, the character, not the TV show. Moon Knight bores me as a character. I very rarely like a Moon Knight run. The people who write Moon Knight are doing work for hire. This isn't their passion project, writing about someone with mental illness like this as a general rule. There's an occasional solid run, but it's a character that never really hit for me, which is a shame because it's like a really great concept and one of the coolest designs in comics. But like where Daredevil got like 10 million amazing runs, Moon Knight has very few that have actually worked for me. Gabriel asks if I ever tried Hearthstone. I downloaded it and played through the tutorial and went, no, not for me. So a lot of the problem is the reason I might do the Pokemon game and not just go play Hearthstone, right? The reason I couldn't get into Magic is I hate joining things already started. I need to try and get in on the ground floor, or at least close to the ground floor. I joined Snap at global launch if I'm going to be doing content, if I'm going to be playing something a lot. And things I play, I tend to play a lot. So it wasn't for me largely because of when I started. I'm sure it's probably great, but oh well. I hope other people greatly enjoy it. Leggett asked brownies or cookies, and I mean, brownies are one thing really, and cookies are 10 million things, so cookies, and it's not close. But even so, chocolate chip cookies are better than brownies. Oatmeal cookies are on par with brownies. Cookies are amazing. Props to cookies for being genuinely fantastic when made well. Leave some questions, I'll answer them tomorrow. Let's talk about Ravonna Renslayer. She is Series 4, 3,000 tokens ongoing. Your cards with 1 or less power cost 1 less, minimum 1. As a 2/3, she is one of the most important cards in the meta of Marvel Snap. She is 100% worth owning. Straight up, no hyperbole, no extra statements, no caveats. You should own her. However, if you're not opening for Sasquatch, she's better open for 3,000 tokens. First deck we're going to look at, I played this earlier today, and went barely above 500, but I had a really positive cube rate. So this is the One Piece. This is Safety Blades deck. Yes, it is expensive. This is the only, in my personal opinion, the only style of Namora deck that's really worth it. I've seen 18 variations on this, but all the Namora decks I like more or less look like this within like 3 cards. So this is excellent. It's just really powerful. You can replace Sage with Tomb, but outside of that, this is basically the freaking list. Next up, we have some ongoing Tribunal goodness. This is if you want to play Tribunal, and Tribunal is series dropping next week, so you should make sure that you're ready for Tribunal to go down in series, then you need Ravonna. Zabu at this point you don't need. Zabu should be Psylocke in this list. I just pulled an older version of it. But basically what this list does, this is from our friend Hella Enjoyer, who stopped making Marvel Snap content. We will miss you, Hella Enjoyer. Yeah, this list puts out more power than anything. If opponents aren't doing things to stop it, like putting junk on the board, using Cannonball, etc., this will just straight up win games. Cool. Negative Tribunal, same thing, you need Ravonna. Basically, every Negative Tribunal deck in the world runs Ravonna. I mean, it works on Mystique, Negative, Jubilee, Iron Man. That's plenty, right? like just those costing one less is incredible. Even if you don't get negative at the end of the game, you can drop Iron Man and Mystique with Ravonna on turn 6. That's awesome. All right, let's keep going through Mr. Negative. I think we have 2 more negatives. Here's another negative. This is a negative Surfer list. You've probably seen negative Surfer around. It is one of the more known and powerful decks that circles the meta, but it's really disruptible, so it just disappears a lot. But here's a great version of it. Ravonna works for basically everything here except Surfer, Wong, Magic, Brood, and Jane. And like everything else just gets better. Being able to negative early is amazing. Cerebro 3. This is an Owie Cerebro 3. There's a better Cerebro 3, in my opinion, that won the Lambie Open. Again, check yesterday's video. But that one doesn't run Ravonna. Ravonna is excellent in this deck if you are going to run Iron Man. You already run Cerebro and Mystique. If you're also going to try and run Iron Man, instead of run you run Ravonna instead of Bast. And it's great. It works amazingly well. Sage Negativo, last Sage Negative. I like this one a lot. I just wanted to show it off. I've been meaning to cover this, and I just haven't had time. This one's from King Venom. Basically, what you want to do is you want to Wong Sage Taskmaster at the end of the game, and it's completely hilarious and, like, nasty. You can also Wong Sage Zola the same way you Wong Panther Zola, and it's just a ton of power. Like, it's super cool. It's so worth doing. I don't know what else to say. It's insanely fun. You can Wong Mystique Sage Taskmaster sometimes. It's the combos are nasty. But again, Ravonna is a requirement for these lists because, like, some of them will be in your hand when you negative, right? Which means that Ravonna making all the others cheaper is important. Kalinitis has Ravonna in a Galactus list because, yes, Ravonna goes amazingly with Professor X, but also with Goblins. Goblins get cheaper. Yes, that's the only 2 things that it's in the deck for. Yeah, it's still worth it. Ika's Blinkdown. I played this a little bit. Very fun. Did you know Ravonna works with Morph? Along with, obviously, Professor X here. And Jubilee. Again, requirement for Professor X decks is Ravonna. Professor X decks are one of the most important and prevalent things in the metagame right now. Lambie's Ultron list. That looks like Mystique, Patriot, Iron Man. Yeah, Ravonna's great here. We get the pattern. W's Scam list. Iron Man and Professor X. Obviously, Ravonna. And Hobgoblin, right? So you've got 3 5s. If you can get Ravonna down, you can play 2 of them in a game. Obviously, that's huge, especially if you can get the Hobgoblin on the opponent's side of the board to win the damn game. Junk, this is the what's his name made these originally? Lola, I lost his name, Jesus. Ordinary Harry made this type originally. It ended up being fairly perfected by our friend Avazord, who is chilling in the top 3, but no longer number 1. Sizer has been dominating the first spot on the Infinite Leaderboard. But yeah, this is a junk deck that runs, you guessed it, Ravonna. Literally 2 cards. A 2/3 that makes you be able to play ahead of curve is incredible. Our other Spotlight card is less amazing. It's Havok. 2/0. After each turn, you lose 1 max energy and this gains +4 power. It gets big. It becomes a 4/8, right? It's pretty good with Bast. It's pretty good with, you guessed it, Ravonna, which is where we're going to start, but this is not a card you need. In every card that you can play this, it's completely replaceable. This is Slayer Blade. This is the version of Slayer Blade I'm playing right now. Havok is perfectly fine as Wolfsbane in this deck. Basically, what you want to do is on turn 5, you want to Havok and Professor X to win 1 lane, and then you can Cannonball to win another. Ravonna is obviously not in this list. Oh, yeah, it is. Ravonna is in basically every Havok list, but works great with Sage here, works great with Havok here. This is like the only real Havok list, in my opinion. Glenn Jones, you might have heard of him. He designs the cards. Made this a while back as a Havok negative list. It's cool. It's not amazing, but it's cool. Havok being a 0/6 at the end of the game is pretty nice. That you can go get with Jane. Works great with Professor X if you just happen to draw it. Again, Ravonna here is amazing for that turn 5 play. Yeah. Steven Jarrett has a extraordinarily similar version of this. This one, though, runs Arnim Zola. I don't know. Since the two main Marvel Snap people that are public facing have the same deck, I thought I'd show it off. All right, Ravonna is a must-have card, but Series 4. Again, if you want Sasquatch, you can feel free to open for Ravonna. You're not going to be sad to open Ravonna. She's one of the most important cards. Although she's probably going to be bad for this week, while, you guessed it, Mobius is everywhere. Havok isn't needed, even for his very best decks. Sasquatch may be meta-shaping, but may also be largely an expensive deck, so keep that in mind. You can rewind and look through those decks and see how many high series cards there are. Is it worth opening for Sasquatch if you're only getting Series 4 cards and all the decks that are running him are running multiple Series 5 cards you don't have? So I still think this is about as safe of an open as you can get, because that Dracula dump style deck is pretty damn cheap. You're going to want like Hitmonkey, Sage, or Black Swan with him, I'm pretty sure. But if you have any of those or Thanos, I think you're perfectly fine. Still better safe than sorry, so wait until Friday, because if this is disappointing, you would feel very bad if you opened it early, right? There's no downside to waiting until Friday. Please choose to do so. Certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with on-air thanks. In addition to getting your name read out in every video, for the $10 patrons, I had Lambie do an exclusive video. I do at least 2 videos almost every week on the Patreon. So if you're interested in those exclusives, check out the Patreon. I'd like to say thank you to Abigail Gieslin, Mandatory Burnout, Cables, David G. Wingfield, Direwolf, LAB, FaThorNewman, Good Dog Gamer, who we saw a question from today, This Is the Way from Scotland, Inc., Jay Never Eats, JD McDonaldino, Caretix Lee, the king of questions. Caretix Lee's questions are so good, I can't answer them without taking forever, and then I feel bad. Koirei, coming all the way from Japan. Pyrophoros, the Goat Seeker, my matchup in the final round of Swiss for Snap Judgments League Season 2. Den Man Falcon, Doku, Ginger Prime, Philip Ratkovich, Aratko, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone, Rob Silverman, The Bizza, Xworth V and Skippy G, Tommy Nyquist, who won Snap Judgments League Season 1, The King of Bros, Black Dahlia, The Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, Ryan Wood, hey Ryan, Kev Sihora, Infinite, let's go, Lunacris, Louis Antunes, my former student, Models, the Mod Supreme, Darth Tater, Rema Setala, Brian Kaufman, Tristan H. Martin, Fuzzy Dunlop, Spectrumix, Hoot, Matt H., DJ Mikey Hijinks, No Frickin' Flex, Ocularis, Greg Sterry, hey Greg, Pretty Damn Chill, Seamus, we got a question from Seamus today, Spike Jones, hey Jonesy, Two Ties, whose deck got me an infinite this season, The Pirate King Tuccrr, The Homie Min, and of course Gunny T, where the T stands for, I have too many decks for tomorrow, and it's giving me agita. See you tomorrow for another Snap Take. Always appreciate you. Thanks for watching. Peace.